My flash is on. All right. This is a Honda CRV. The last video I did on Honda CRV got a lot of views. Apparently they're real popular. This is a 2010 model. As you can see under your hood right there, in case you didn't know that. And you could also see under your hood that it's a 2.4 liter, which is right there, the notorious KA24. And before I get started telling you about this strut job that we're gonna do, we're gonna be replacing the struts, the complete strut assembly with spring and everything. But before I get into that, I'm gonna show you guys something. You see this brake line? This is your brake caliper, and I obviously have already loosened it from the strut, so it's sagging a little bit. So I'm gonna hurry up and release this because I've noticed that it's twisted over. So let's do that. Let's hurry up and release that so it doesn't hurt itself in the process. And yeah, here's the socket. I had the socket handy. It's a 12 millimeter, and I'm trying to one-hand it on here while I'm recording with y'all. Okay, sorry, couldn't quite one-hand that. So we'll get that off of there. And as you can see, that 12 millimeter is off from the bracket, so there's really no more tension on it. But you see how the hose is binded, it's twisted up. Whoever put brakes on this binded that up, twisted it up. I believe it's a 12 also to release the caliper. So we'll have to release the caliper now, even though that shouldn't have been part of this job. And of course, it's a freaking 14. Why wouldn't it be a 14? So we're gonna have to take that socket off and come down yonder here and get a 14. Which should be this guy. And we will pop those calipers off and try to one-hand this back on here. There we go. So I'm recording. Just go ahead and go try to fix that. So you take this off. And you take that off. Get your caliper off with these two nuts. So you see this? Whoever installed this twisted it up and needed to be like that, in that position. So that's how we will mount it back up. For now, we're gonna let it hang on purpose. Not a lot of weight to it. See, this one hangs straight down, and that'll help take some of the kink out of that hose while we replace the strut. So you see we got the strut loose. And before I get into the strut, let me show you what I mean on the other side where I haven't taken it apart. I think that would be a good idea. You see this brake line right here? You see how there's no twist in it? It's nice and straight. And that's how it should have been. So on the other side, you'll see I removed both of these nuts, and then the bolt that comes across pushed out. This is a 22 millimeter, and this is a 19 millimeter. So you can put a 19 millimeter wrench on here and a 22 socket on here and hit it with the impact. The tie rod stays intact. This sits inside of here for the brake, and that just pops. It goes in that direction with these ridges here. So you just pop that out of there, and then you have your sway bar link, and that's a 17 millimeter nut, and you'll remove that 17 millimeter nut from there. So we're removing the 19 bolts, the 22 nuts. In order to remove those, you don't have to remove the brake line if it looks straight, if it wasn't kinked. You remove that 17 right there. Come back over here where it's all taken apart and give you the view over here again. So now, as you see, I have the sway bar link attached on the bottom still. I loosened it here. If for some reason you don't have an impact gun and you're doing this by hand and it starts moving on you, there's an Allen in there. I think that might be, I haven't checked it. Somebody correct me in the comments later. Well, that looks, I'm eyeballing it. It looks somewhere like an 8 or a 10. Could be somewhere in between a 6 and a 10. I'd bet it's probably an 8. But yeah, you get an Allen key in there and hold it while you crack the 17 millimeter nut. So that'll go up here on your strut mount. And then obviously, not to be redundant, but get your 2 bolts out like I described over there. Loosen your ABS sensor out of the way. The reason why we have the caliper loose, I already explained. Sometimes people want to save themselves money and do their own brake pads. And they're not careful in which direction they put the caliper back. And with that hose kinked up, you're not getting good hydraulic pressure to this caliper. The same hydraulic pressure that you would be getting over there, it's not going to be the same. It's going to be restricted here because of the loop, because of the kink. You always want to check the sliders when you remove a caliper. Make sure they're lubed and they go back and forward. It still has enough pad life, so we're going to leave those alone. I always put a thin coat. I don't mean get messy and slobby. A thin coat of grease on here and on your bolts. And when I say thin, I mean thin. You want to keep it clean. You don't want it messy. Put a thin coat of grease back in there. Very thin. Keep saying thin to drive that message home. Thin coat of grease there. Anywhere where there's metal to metal contact, I put a thin coat of grease. Okay, so now we have this strut completely loose here. And if you look up, it's obviously still attached to your spring. And up at the top, I'm going to show you how to release it. So if you look up here, we've went ahead and removed the windshield wipers and the plastic windshield wiper assembly. I'll show you that over here. This is where the windshield wipers go, right? And if you see this mark right there and the mark right there, let me show you a little better over here. So when these two go together, like so, that mark with a Sharpie and that mark with the Sharpie shows you the exact position that wiper arm was in before I removed it. The same with over here. If you look over here, this mark with the Sharpie and this mark with the Sharpie show you the exact position that those wipers were laying in. So when I go to put the wiper back in and I install this back in there, I know exactly the same position that it was in, so she gets the same position on her wipers. Because if you see here on the wiper, there's teeth where it bites onto right there below the threads. And you want that teeth to bite that arm in a position of where it was. And once that plastic is removed, how do you mark it? There's nowhere to mark it, right? This is your wiper arm assembly. Your wiper arm motor sits under there. That I know of, this is my first time ever doing this. I'm not a YouTube mechanic. I don't look stuff up in YouTube. You know, I was talking to my girlfriend earlier today and I was telling her, she's like, oh, look it up on YouTube. I'm like, I don't look up stuff on YouTube. I honestly don't. I've been doing this long enough to where I don't need to look stuff up on YouTube, even if it's a job I've never done before. I've never done struts on the front of a Honda CRV before, but I've done 1,000 struts on many other similar cars. So therefore, I know how to do it. I don't need to look anything up. I could be wrong, not trying to sound arrogant. Maybe I do need to remove this upper brace. And if I do, I was looking at that, and it has bolts that run down there. Another one there, and another one there. So we have 4 altogether. 2 here and 2 there. And then we have those bolts, which are 10 millimeter bolts, not nuts, bolts. And then over here we have, I believe these are 17. Yeah, these are 17 nuts. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are those 17? No, those are 14. I stand corrected, y'all. Let me give you a rundown on tools I've used. I use these needle nose pliers right here. For what, Danny? What did you use those for? I'll show you on this side. I haven't taken it apart yet. Or I take it back. I'm a step ahead of y'all. I already did. This clip right here was in there. It goes in there like so. And I use this to get in there and clip that off. To get this off, right? So that's what these are for. Over here, we got a 14 millimeter deep socket. Deep meaning it's the long one. It goes down deep. We got a 3/8 ratchet with a wobble. I like the flex head. Not wobble, flex head. This is a Pittsburgh from Harbor Freight. Nothing fancy. Anyone can afford it. We also got a 17 millimeter 3/8. This 17 millimeter deep socket also, you could use a short if you needed to. Just a little more comfortable with the deep. This we used for the nuts on the wiper arms. This we use for cracking loose the nuts on top of the strut mount, which we're about to do now. So these nuts that I just pointed out up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, uno, dos, cuatro, cinco, those right there, I already cracked them loose with the 3/8 hand wrench, and because I'm using my small DeWalt here, and I got a 14-inch deep on that, and I don't like to overwork this DeWalt, and so I'll crack them loose first, tightening, and then I'll loosen them with the DeWalt. And I'm a little nicer with this when I'm not doing it left-handed and I'm not holding a phone in the other hand. Look at that. Drops right out from the bottom, y'all. No biggie, huh? You see how that dropped right out from there? And we're resting on the CV axle down here. I'm gonna switch hands and I'm gonna grab this with my right hand and set it on the floor for y'all. There's your strut. And if you're ever feeling like a rock-a-boat, like woo, woo, going down the highway, it's your struts. Now, in a perfect world, y'all, if y'all wanna be cheaper, you can just replace the strut and reuse the spring. And this is the strut. Let's see if we can get this thing to stand up somewhere. Okay, stay. There we go. This is the strut mount up top right there, right? So the strut mount, I'll probably reuse this cap on the new one. It probably doesn't come with them. You release this nut and the strut mount comes off. You got to be careful, y'all, because this is spring loaded. So that spring is compressed, has tension. That nut is holding it down, and when you release it, it's going to go boing. You're going to have a piece of metal hit you in the face and have you missing some teeth. So there's a spring tool that they ran at your local auto parts store. I prefer O'Reilly's, and you go and you rent this tool from them. And it tightens the springs down and holds them there while you loosen the top. And then you can remove the spring, remove the strut mount, install your new your strut on your new spring, and hopefully you're getting a new strut mount. The strut mount is the top piece. They call it a strut mount because that's exactly what it does. It mounts the strut in the car. So the top strut mount, rubber bushing there tends to go bad, so hopefully you replace that too. So you'll drop your spring in, you'll drop your dust boot back in, and you'll drop the strut mount, and you'll put that all in on your new strut that you've ordered. So you won't get a complete assembly. I don't like doing that, especially on something, look, 2010, this is about 11 years old, we could say. It's about to be 2021, we're in December of 2020. It's got some miles on it, y'all. So how many miles does this car got? Let's look at that for y'all. Oh, let's get in here. 134K, not too shabby. Not too shabby. We got the kids' seats back there. And this thing takes the kiddos to school, y'all. And there's the neighbor lady across the street. I really like her. She's a sweet lady. Her and her son and all their kids really need this vehicle to be reliable. So they bring it down to me, and I try to be as neighborly as possible with them because they're good people. So yeah, she's complaining about the front shocks. She's also complaining about her blend door actuator acting up, meaning that she's getting some air blowing stronger from one vent than the other vent. So I'm going to look into that blend door actuator and fix that for her next. I had her order. The part hasn't arrived apparently. But yeah, this is the strut mount. It has 134,000 miles on it, right? So what happens is sometimes those springs, they get wear out too. You know, they get saggy. And then if she has to buy the strut plus the strut mounts on both sides and reuse the spring, then you come into this situation where now you also have to order a dust boot with it. You see how this is all coming apart? That's just pretty shot out, right? So that dust boot is exactly why they call it a dust boot. You don't want dust and debris getting inside here in the shaft of this strut. So you want this shaft to be protected and sealed with the dust boot. So if we replaced all this, what would I do? I would put the same ripped up dust boot back on it? No, I would have to have her buy that also. So by the time you start adding all these parts, dust boot, strut mounts, struts, saggy springs, we're going to replace the springs, maybe not. You know, some people say, come on Danny, you could reuse those springs. Maybe. Depends how long she rode with these struts bad. She was complaining that it was real bouncy in the front end. So the more bouncy it is because the strut has no rebound effect anymore. It's just boom, 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 back and forth with heavy rebound is what I meant to say. It's not compressing. So now that spring is doing extra work. It's all on the spring now. That spring is so bouncy, like boing, 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 and you're stressing out the spring, wearing it out. So in a perfect world, you would replace it all, right? And that's what we did. We're temporarily in a fake world called a perfect world. And we're going to get a razor blade here because I'm going to open this box. We're going to do an opening of this box from eBay. So we're going to come right down the middle, one-handed here. And we then cut through the strap. There we go. We're going to put this razor blade to use a little bit more on these new Detroit axle struts. And here's their information. They are in Ferndale, Michigan. Warren Avenue, Detroit, Michigan. Yeah. West 8 Mile, Ferndale, Michigan. That's where their headquarters out, distribution center. So they're both in, one's in Ferndale, one's in Detroit. They got the distribution center and the headquarters. There's their phone number if you want to call them. I personally have bought so much stuff from Detroit Axle over the years on eBay that I can honestly vouch for these guys, saying they sell quality components. I can't remember any time that I've bought something from them and been disappointed or had to send it back. Almost every time you buy something from them, it's like, voila, quality. Cheaper than what you could have got it on at O'Reilly's, AutoZone, Advance. No disrespect to those guys. They know I love them so much. But it's just, I mean, we're living in an online world these days. What can I say? And yes, these are cheaper. This was cheaper through Summit Racing, cheaper than carparts.com, cheaper than, I mean, just about every major online parts carrier. So we got it to stand up. Oh, it timbered. I figured I wasn't going to get that lucky. There we go. Here's our part number from Detroit Axle if you're going to give them a call. June 11th of 2020 is when this was assembled. Check that out. They actually date it. And their part number, or SKU number, whatever you want to call it, is 6363241. You see what I'm talking about? The dust boot being brand new. Look at that. They even put a rubber insulator on this top coil over here. I knew it wasn't going to have that rubber cap on the top bolt, but I'm going to take it off of the other one. Look, we come with brand new nuts, so I don't even have to reuse those other nuts. They'll go in my spare nut bucket. And I'm sure they have some kind of I can't read this through the camera. Let me look. Highly compressive spring. Refrain from removing nut. Injury or fatality can result. Wow, they're not playing around with that warning. And they put it in 3 different languages for all the dummies that don't read. So we'll lean that there out of the way. We'll stick this sticker down here. There's the warning. They did a good job warning us. We'll come over here. Boom, boom, boom. And sometimes with them, they send you a sticker. And sometimes they don't. Not all people want stickers on their car, but if you want one, when you order, just ask the guy to send you a sticker. So when you pull this out, you want to pull them side by side and you want to check, right? Before you install this. So if you notice, the brackets are on opposite side. This bracket is on the right side instead of the left, and this one is on the right instead of the left. So meaning that this one right here goes on the passenger side. So we'll put it over there. But look how ripped up this dust boot is. See that? Look how nice and brand new that is. The springs look a little different too. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just a little more stretched, but it's the same. You have the same ridge right there that you have here. Yeah, they're pretty much the same part. So we'll set this one down over here because we know that's the passenger side, and we'll come back around over here and we'll close this box up. And I'm gonna give these guys a shout out and hold the camera here for a second. One last time for those of you that want that phone number. 1-888-684-9280. No, they don't pay me to do this. I just like Detroit Axle. They've done right by me many times in the past. And why not give them a little love, right? You're sitting at home on quarantine. You're thinking about, I need to get off my butt and do the shocks on my CRV. I don't want to overpay and have to compress springs and pay a shop to rent a tool. I want to do like Danny did in his video and order them from Detroit Axle and just have them arrive to the house. He showed me what tools to get, and I'm not that scared to do it after watching this video now. So there's your bolt on top. Take the sticker off, and we're gonna come down here and lay it side by side with this old thing here. And there we go. You're gonna double check. You have your brackets on the same side. This is the brake line mounting bracket. This is the ABS sensor mounting bracket. Your sway bar link bracket, and your two strut bolts. There you go. So that's how you know which one's the driver's side and which one's the passenger side. Do them one at a time, just like that. The part where you shove this back up in the hole and get the bolt started is usually a two-man job. So if you have a buddy that you can talk into helping you, get them over here and say, come give me a hand, put these struts in, bro. I got a pizza and something in the cooler for you, and come over and just beg them until they come. You're gonna want to clean this. See all that dirt? And you can say, why? Nobody sees that. Just shove it in there. Come on, don't be lazy, guys. Clean that. Put a thin coat of grease. Thin, ever so thin after it's been cleaned. Metal to metal contact, right? You don't want to shim. You don't want a vibration. You don't want squeaking. So a thin coat. Throw that puppy up there. You'll have one guy under here holding it up. And then the other guy will be up here and get one of the nuts started. Once you get one started, then it's easy to get the rest started, right? Hey, who's down there? Who's down there? Yeah, that's the hole that the top nut is going to come through. And that's why they have this rubber lid that you're going to want to pass over from there to over here. So don't forget to swap that over. But anyways, you'll get that up here. You'll bolt all 5 nut on the bolts, all 5 of those, and then you'll come back down underneath, like I said, thin coat of grease, put the spindle nuts through the spindle here onto the bottom of the strut. The next step I would do is the sway bar, then the ABS sensor, and then last I would attach my caliper and my caliper brake line bolt to the strut, and you're done with this side. So I'll give you one last visual. Oh, then you got to come back up here, obviously, and put all your windshield wiper stuff apart. I'll give you one last visual, right? Comes back together, that, but I do it in this order. Bolt it up there. You got the nuts up here, boom, boom, boom. And then I would come down here and I would bolt the long bolts with 19, 19, 22, 22, get those through there. And then I would come over here and I would do sway bar link, 17 millimeter nut up there. I would tuck in my ABS sensor on the bracket. I would come over here, bolt this on that side. On the other side, I have to put the caliper because they had it twisted over here. You wouldn't have to. And that's it. You're done on this side. You would have that strut. Then you would come up top here. I'm going to wipe this all down for them, make it all nice and clean. You see how nasty that is. My grandfather always said, if you're going to work on it, make it look like you worked on it, boy. I'm going to recommend they do a cabin air filter. You could see it back in there, and it is getting a little dirty. That's the filter that filters all the debris, everything you're breathing inside the cabin. You access it from behind the glove box, but you can see it from here. That's the cabin air filter. So I'm going to recommend they order one of those. I'll have her come back. I won't charge her anything to put it in. I'll just tell her to buy it and pull in the driveway. It'll take me 5 minutes to do it for her. But yeah, we'll wipe all this down, right? And then we'll put the plastic windshield wiper carrier assembly over this. It has its plastic clips. We'll put the wipers back in it. We'll top off all her fluids. I could have swore she was a little bit low on her Honda power steering, and it is dirty, so we'll clean that up and spray that and top that off. Some windshield wash, all the common fluids. some engine coolant. We'll check the battery, water in there. I'll pop her air filter off, blow that off for her, and if I need to recommend a new one, I will. And obviously double check her engine oil. I can double check her transmission dipstick, top off the brake fluid in the master cylinder, clean the top of this engine because it's a little bit dirty, and top off her air pressure and give it back to her. And I'll be seeing this car again shortly for the blend door actuator. I was gonna rotate the tires, but it seems like she already has her best tires up front. You want your best tires up front, not in the back. So we'll leave these tires alone. We won't rotate them. We will top off the air pressure. Anyways, I'll end the video on the new struts. The last tools I didn't show you over here was I also had a 17 millimeter half inch, and I had a 12 millimeter half inch, and I had a 14 millimeter half inch for the caliper bolts. The 12 was for the caliper brake line, and the 17 was for the sway bar link, and I used my Milwaukee half inch to zap those off. That's it. That's pretty much all you need. If you have a cordless 14 quick up top, use the big ratchet, crack them loose. And a 17 up top was for the 2 wiper nuts. You want to keep your wipers separate. I have one up here. Where did I put that sucker? Over here. I have one up here. That's the driver's side, and then I have the passenger side on the other side. That way you don't get them mixed up. They're both long, and you could easily be stuck staring at them like, oh, which one goes where? So just make sure you separate those. Anyways, I'm gonna check out of here. I forget that I have these things on when I turn the camera on. Anyways, I'm gonna check out of here. Thanks for watching the video. I really hope this helped. Hopefully you're not afraid to do your struts on your Honda CR-V after watching the video. If there's anything I missed out, I tried to be as thorough as possible. Drop me a comment below. I'll try to leave a list of the tools I used in the bottom and the part numbers, and we'll give Detroit Auto Axle one more shout out. See, here's the stickers in case you wanted to see. That's the sticker they give you, and that's their website, DetroitAxle.com. Cool logo, simple, plain, but it works. So if you want a sticker from Detroit Axle, when you order them, say, hey, could y'all throw a sticker in the box for me? And boom, next thing you know, you got your Detroit Axle sticker to go with your Detroit Axle struts on your Honda CR-V. Anyways, I'm out of here, y'all. God bless y'all. Catch you on the next video. Peace.